coverage as you are taking a live look at the White House. President Trump getting ready to make his way to New Orleans as the first sitting president ever to attend a Super Bowl game. And we also wanted to let you know this as well, that President Trump has cut off aid to South Africa, sharing this message on social media saying, quote, South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want to so much as mention. A massive human rights violation is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Also, because of this, I will be cutting off all aid to South Africa until further notice. President Trump making that announcement today ahead of his travels to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. And I did want to share just a little bit more with you as you are taking a live look right there at the White House on this Sunday morning. Groups representing some of South Africa's white minority responding to this plan to offer them refugee status as well and resettlement in the United States, saying thank you, but no thank you. So this plan was detailed in an executive order President Trump signed on Friday that stopped all aid and financial assistance to South Africa as punishment for what the Trump administration said were rights violations by the government against some of its white citizens. The Trump administration accusing the South African government of allowing violent attacks on white Afrikaner farmers and introducing a land expropriation law that enables it to, quote, cede ethnic minority Afrikaners' agricultural property without compensation. Now,
on February 8th, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to halt all foreign aid to South Africa, citing concerns over the country's land expropriation policies and its stance on international issues. The decision has sparked significant international debate and has been met with strong responses from South African officials. Background on South Africa's land policy. Land ownership in South Africa remains a deeply contentious issue, rooted in the nation's history of colonialism and apartheid. Despite the end of apartheid in 1994, a significant portion of the country's land remains under white ownership, while the black majority, constituting approximately 80% of the population, owns only a fraction. To address these disparities, the South African government has pursued land reform policies aimed at redistributing land to historically marginalized communities. In January 2025, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Expropriation Act into law. This legislation provides guidelines for land expropriation, including provisions that allow the government to seize land without compensation in specific circumstances deemed to be in the public interest. The act emphasizes that expropriation must be just, equitable, and aligned with constitutional mandates. The government asserts that this approach is essential for rectifying historical injustices and promoting equitable land distribution. President Trump's executive order. President Trump's executive order expresses deep concerns over South Africa's land expropriation policy, alleging that it discriminates against white farmers and constitutes a human rights violation. The order states that the U.S. will cease all aid to South Africa until the country abandons these practices. Additionally, the order directs U.S. agencies to assist Afrikaners, an ethnic group of European descent, seeking to flee South Africa due to perceived discrimination, including facilitating their resettlement through refugee programs. The executive order also criticizes South Africa's international positions, particularly its stance against Israel and its renewed ties with Iran. It highlights South Africa's accusations of genocide against Israel and its efforts to strengthen commercial, military, and nuclear relationships with Iran as actions that are aggressive toward the U.S. and its allies. South Africa's response. The South African government has firmly refuted the claims made in President Trump's executive order.
The South African government has denied that there are any concerted attacks on white farmers and said that President Trump's description of the new land law is full of misinformation and distortions. Afrikaners are descended from mainly Dutch, but also French and German colonial settlers who first arrived in South Africa more than 300 years ago. And Saturday, two of the most prominent groups representing Afrikaners say they will not be taking up President Trump's offers of resettlement in the United States. So as President Trump is preparing for his trip to New Orleans for the Super Bowl, still a very busy Sunday morning at the White House, out as he has now cut off all aid to South Africa until further notice, sharing this statement via Truth Social, quote, "South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want to so much as mention. A massive human rights violation is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Also, because of this, I will be cutting off all aid to South Africa until further notice."
President Ramaphosa emphasized that South Africa is a constitutional democracy deeply committed to the rule of law, justice, and equality. He clarified that the government has not confiscated any land and that the Expropriation Act is a legal process designed to ensure public access to land in a fair and just manner, as guided by the Constitution. South Africa's foreign ministry expressed concern over the executive order, stating that it lacks factual accuracy and fails to recognize the country's painful history of colonialism and apartheid. The ministry described the move as a campaign of misinformation aimed at misrepresenting the nation. Furthermore, the ministry highlighted the irony of the U.S. offering refugee status to a group in South Africa that remains among the most economically privileged, while vulnerable individuals from other parts of the world are being deported and denied asylum despite facing real hardship. Implications and international reactions. The U.S. allocated nearly $440 million in assistance to South Africa in 2023, with a significant portion dedicated to health initiatives, including HIV/AIDS programs. The suspension of aid could have substantial impacts on these programs and other development projects within South Africa. International reactions to the executive order have been mixed. Some observers view the U.S. action as an overreach into South Africa's domestic policies, while others see it as a necessary stance against policies they perceive as discriminatory. The situation has also reignited debates about land reform, property rights, and the role of international aid in influencing domestic policies. In his annual State of the Nation address, President Ramaphosa responded to the executive order by asserting that South Africans are a resilient people who will not be bullied. He emphasized the nation's commitment to its constitutional values and its determination to pursue land reform in a manner that is just and equitable. As the situation develops, it remains to be seen how the suspension of aid will affect U.S. South Africa relations and the broader international community's approach to issues of land reform and human rights.